should MPs be suspended for airing their political views? Welcome to Mark and Pete. Here's a thought.
Time to hang your head. Giving a politician enough rope is recommended, and for their views in interviews it can be extended. But if listeners hang on every word and are simply offended, maybe that's the time they are swiftly suspended.
Yeah.
Well, should they be swinging from the political rope? Well, Mr. Lee Anderson, the deputy chairman of the Conservative Party, has been suspended after refusing to apologise for saying London's mayor, Sadiq Khan, is controlled by Islamists. Now, this has been a controversial statement, and Mr. Khan, the mayor himself, has already claimed that his comments were Islamophobic, anti-Muslim and racist. Now, this is also the fact that it's been pouring fuel on the fire of anti-Muslim hatred. Is he right to think that? Should politicians actually have the right to say what they really think, or should they be towing the political line? Clergyman Pete, I ask you, what's your opinion about Lee Anderson's comments, and do you think he should have been suspended?
Well, there's two levels to this. What do I think about his comments? I think he was right. I think there is a problem with the number of Muslims in London now, and also Sadiq Khan's relationship to extreme Muslim elements like the Muslim Brotherhood. And I think until people recognise that, it's just going to and it's sort of brushed under the carpet. It's going to get worse and worse because that is his hidden agenda. And if someone pointing it out gets suspended, what hope is there? So that's my comment on his actual views. But whether he should be suspended, well, I mean, I think if an MP goes directly against the interests of the party, yes, he should be suspended. But I don't see that in this case. I don't think he should have been. I think he made perfectly reasonable comments. I think it would be perfectly reasonable for a member of the leadership of the Tory party to say we don't have those same views, but we respect our MPs to voice their own opinions. I don't think it was that level of comment, such as an MP might go against the leader in such a way that they need to be thrown out of the cabinet. But then the next level is they go against the interests of the party so much that they have to be thrown out of the party. That can happen. But this doesn't seem to have been that at all.
No. Well, here's another point, because Mr. Khan also criticised not just Mr. Anderson, but also condemned Mr. Sunak and his cabinet for what he called a deafening silence on the matter, essentially no comment at all. Now, I can see the point here in one sense that at least what Mr. Khan is asking for is what is the political statement from the Conservative Party? What does the government think? Should actually Lee Anderson be allowed to continue to say these things? Well, clearly there is an investigation and, of course, he's been suspended. Now, the point about being suspended from the party doesn't mean to necessarily say that he can't be reinstated. So there will be an investigation. But here's my take on the matter. I actually think that this is all really a bit of a smokescreen for much bigger issues, because it's really, whether you're living in London or whether you're living somewhere else in the United Kingdom, it's a big distraction. I'm not saying that the issues of whether there are more members of society than perhaps another form of religious groups or other, but we have as a nation some very, very serious issues which are not being tackled. And we know what they are. They've been sort of covered in certain ways, whether it be immigration, whether it be the economy, whether it be, education or the lack of education, et cetera, et cetera. And it does worry me that whilst, again, that I don't think that people should literally be allowed to say anything that is offensive, if somebody can come with evidence to say there are political things that are not happening, so whether it be, I'll just make one up, Mr. Khan, there is not enough investment going on in business to encourage people to grow businesses, or education is issue, or even if you have an issue over the ULEZ, the ultra low emission zones, then fair enough. Those are the sort of things that people really affects their business lives and their daily lives. This is the thing that slightly concerns me of this type of of activity, because I actually do think it's overall very, very distracting. Again, I know it has to be tackled, but close and repeat. I do feel that this sort of rhetoric that we're seeing, that's sort of taking over the news, in my opinion, is not helpful to anyone.
No, I think that's the issue. The problem lies in stifling comment on a particular issue. Well, what happens is people still have their opinions about that issue, and they get buried. And those who are very, very unhappy about whatever the situation is, could be anything, but it being stifled, you can't talk about it being stifled, breeds resentment, and you end up getting a more extreme reaction than
That's
you would
right.
otherwise. It's
Yeah.
dangerous to do that.
Yes.
Free speech is actually great. It's a good outlet. Bad ideas get argued against and shouted down, and good ideas rise to the top. When you have censorship of this nature, what you get is the bad ideas winning because they fester and then they burst out. So a bad idea would be to react against Muslims in a violent way. That's a very bad idea.
Yes.
But that could happen if you stop free speech, stop people commenting on
Yeah.
legitimate issues.
Yeah. There is another point as well, which I sort of wonder about the motivations here of Lee Anderson, and in some cases, some of other MPs who have gone this route. I think it may be, and I'm going to sort of read between the lines here, that I think he's probably sort of recognizing that his tenure in that role is not very long, partly for the fact that they're not doing that very well in the polls. So maybe this is another reason, as an excuse to sort of say there's a reason to sort of move on. But here again, let's go back to the freedom of speech. Why can't politicians now? And this is around to the psychology, isn't it, of what a politician's real motivations are. I would rather that he came out and said, look, investment should not go in education for the following reason, or investment should go in education for the following reason, or there is a specific thing around the migration issues, or challenges like that. Why do you think some of these politicians are not really getting to the core issues that are affecting our daily lives? This is just a distraction, isn't it? Surely.
Well, a politician has different motivations. Their motivation is to get re-elected, and that's
Ultimately, yes.
It's such an obvious thing. And then there are things that are ramifications from that. You get a better chance of being re-elected if you don't stir up a hornet's nest. That's just the simple truth. And you don't have to be a really bad person to not want to stir up big arguments. Now, if you're trying to get into the political system, it's sometimes very useful to be able to, talk about extremely divisive subjects. But once you get in, it's to your advantage not to do that. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. So that's why I think it's the nature of the incentives within a parliamentary system. So the way to deal with it is within that system as well. You need new people coming in. That I said the motivation then is to bring up these subjects, to campaign about them. So, yep, we need politicians, people who want to be in Parliament, campaigning hard to oust the current crowd to get people who will deal with it. And then you'll have a short window in which to deal with it before everyone goes native. That's the way it works.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting that Lee Anderson has been in the media for a while. He's been a spokesperson or a presenter on GB News in recent times. And he's interviewed, ironically, not just politicians, but people from all different walks of life, trying to get their own opinions, should we say, on what they think about the way that the world is unfolding. And so it's not as though that he's not aware of the pitfalls. So I do think that it is a game plan that he has. Whether that be that it's a world beyond politics, that he's thinking that this is a chance. We've seen that with Nigel Farage. He's also a presenter on GB News and others. And there have been many politicians, haven't there, who have decided to sort of take that route, maybe realizing that their political career is coming to an end. Is that a motivation, that essentially you become more of a personality than actually getting down to brass tacks and doing the job?
Yes. Yeah, well, there's a lot of distractions when it comes to this. In that, as if you're well known, you haven't got. If you're already well known, you haven't got the incentive to deal with things. There are many. There are other things. I mean, if there's a divisive issue, then of course it's divisive within Parliament. So if you're a party politician, you don't want to deal with something that's divisive, because that's your support base. That's where you get your power from. When you look at that issue, like for example the Islamicization of London, which Lee Anderson was pointing out, sorting that out is a complex issue. It's a long-term issue.
Yes.
That means politicians are not going to want to deal with it, because it's more than the election cycle. And during that time, they may not think of it in those terms. They may do. They may not think in those terms. They would say there's more important pressing issues to be dealt with. But there are other important pressing issues to be dealt with. But this is important too. The fact that it'll take a long time to sort out doesn't mean that it doesn't need sorting out.
Well, here's the thing. Obviously, Lee Anderson has given some of his views, but I'm very keen to hear what our listeners think, because we definitely do want you to air your views.
Yes, you need to say what you think. You can tell us and we'll spread the word as well. Just go to markandpete.com. Make sure you're subscribed. Then you can leave a comment on this and every episode. If you're listening on YouTube, just subscribe to the channel there and you can leave a comment below. But for Mark and myself, it's goodbye for now, and catch you next time.